All right, good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from. My name is Matt Cornwell. I work in the Saunders College of Business at RIT. Um, my primary role is Associate Director of Student Services, but I work very closely with our prospective graduate students. So today we have one of our Ask Me Anything sessions. We host these monthly throughout the year, just to give students opportunities to hear about our program portfolio, any questions they may have. And then I do have a current MBA student with us, Plak, as well. Plak, if you just want to introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of jump in here.
Hello everyone, I'm Palak. I'm a current MBA student. I also did my undergrad at RIT in School of Individualized Studies with a focus on healthcare leadership and impact. Right now, I work as a graduate assistant in student services for College of Business, also new student orientation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions from a student's perspective.
Thank you, Plak. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll spend a little time running through. Here we go. There we go. Our program portfolio, just to give folks an idea of what we have available from a business school perspective. We have a variety of Master of Science programs. We're actually making some updates to our program portfolio over the next year as well. So we'll give some insights there, kind of general overviews, high level stuff. And then certainly any questions that folks have, we can address those as we go through the presentation. So our mission and vision here, won't spend a ton of time on this, but really, I think the primary things are RIT is very committed to experiential learning. We are one of the largest private schools in the country and also one of the largest co-op schools in the country. So, and a co-op is really more or less an internship for folks that aren't familiar, but those experiences really drive our focus on career education and preparing students for the workforce. Co-ops at the graduate level are not required, but for a lot of programs, they are an option. So if you do want to seek out that opportunity, you can. But that also spills over into the classroom. So lots of chances and opportunities to work on real world projects, work with companies on real problems that they may be having, real data sets, and project oriented work that we really strive to provide students. And really, application is what we do. We want you to take what you learn and be able to apply it in a variety of ways. We are growing from a research perspective as well. We are very close to being an R1 school, which is the highest research designation that you can have. And then RIT, given we are an institute of technology, we do value that intersection of business and technology. So that's another big part of what we do and what we provide students. So just to give you a sense of Saunders, the business school is AACSB accredited. So for students that are not familiar with that accreditation, it is an important one from a business school perspective. It's the highest accreditation that you can have. Only about 5% of business schools actually hold this accreditation. So be mindful of that if you are looking at other business schools, and I'm sure all of you potentially are, as that can be an important differentiator. And frankly, some companies will look for students that come specifically from AACSB accredited business schools. We are for those that aren't familiar with RIT, we're in Rochester, New York. So we are in basically Western New York. We are not that close to New York City. A lot of folks think we are, but that aren't familiar with campus anyway. We're about 5.5 hours or so from the city itself. Buffalo is about an hour to our west, and then Syracuse is about an hour and a half to our east. So we're kind of right in the middle there. Rochester is about the third largest city in New York. So it's a decent sized city. However, our campus is in a suburb called Henrietta, New York. We have about 18,000 total students at RIT. About 1,000 of those are business students. Campus is more or less almost like a mini city, frankly. Everything that you need is right kind of at your fingertips, right on campus. And then obviously we have, opportunities to explore outside of campus as well. But as I mentioned, about 700 undergrad students, about 300 graduate students. At the graduate level, we are quite diverse. So we have about 40% of our graduate students are international students, and about 40% of our graduate students are also female. So pretty nice diversity there from that perspective. Variety of countries represented in our population, and we have a really strong alumni network as well. So that is something that we can certainly provide and allow you to tap into as you work through your studies. These are a few of our rankings. This was just updated last month. So RIT on the whole as a national university is now up to number 88. We cracked the top 100 3 years ago and have been continuing to progress upwards there. So we're really proud of that. It's a big deal. A lot of schools, obviously, in the US, so that's something important to us. And then you can see there, again, I already alluded to this, but number 5 in co-op and internships, again, just driving home that value that we try to provide students from a career perspective. And then you can see here some of our other rankings as well. Again, MIS being the epitome of business technology and that connection. So that's reflective of kind of RIT standing in that program ranking being very strong. And then on the graduate side, you can see here. Now, these rankings, you can see them spliced between undergrad and graduate, but there's definitely some connection there as faculty teach on both sides, things like that. So a lot of what we do is, spills over to kind of both sides of the house there from a graduate, undergraduate perspective. Okay, and then program offerings. So we have a variety of options available to students from an MBA and MS program portfolio standpoint. We do have a PhD as well. I think someone may have mentioned the PhD when they had registered, but that is an option. I won't spend a ton of time on the PhD because we kind of have a separate recruiting arm for that program. But we can certainly get you in touch with the folks that recruit for that program and can provide more details. So the MBA and the big difference between an MBA and an MS is the generalist nature of an MBA. So the full traditional MBA is a 48 credit program, 16 courses, and it gives you a generalist overview of a variety of different business functional areas. And then you're able to dive deeper into specific areas if you'd like to, with electives. So there are 5 electives in that program as well. We do have an accelerated MBA for those that might have business coursework that they did as an undergraduate student. And those courses would have to have been done domestically, but in the US. But there is that pathway. You can also do it full or part-time. If you do have working commitments, we do have a segment of students that will complete the program on a part-time basis. And then you can see our MS discipline-specific programs. Those are generally 30 credit programs and all can be done in 1 calendar year. And we also have a robust offering of STEM designated programs, including the MBA. The MBA is also STEM, but that allows international students to stay in the US for an additional 2 years by extending their OPT. So you get a chance to work in the US for a total of 3 years. We've recently updated, this isn't even on our website yet, I don't think, but the business analytics program did recently get a title change to include AI content. We've always had that content in the program, but we recently updated that title to be reflective of that. And the other area, and this program isn't listed intentionally as we're still working through it, but we are looking at adding an MS program in, really likely will be an MS in management that will have some various, I don't know that we want to refer to it as tracks, but just areas of focus that students can hone in on. So those likely will include things like HR, entrepreneurship, like leadership, things like that. I do anticipate the organizational leadership and innovation program potentially being wrapped into the MS in management as well. So that is a new program coming. I don't know that that's going to be available by fall 26. maybe. Certainly should be available by fall 27. And then you can see here, we do have, normally our programs outside of the MBA typically only start in the fall. However, we do have some full-time start options available for students. The MBA is always available in the spring, but we also have the MS in Finance, MS Accounting and Analytics, and MS Business Analytics and AI. We are offering a spring start for those programs as well. So, and by spring start, I mean January. So January, middle of January is when our spring term begins. So, keep that in mind as well if you do have interest in jumping into something right away. And then before we go into just details about our program specifically, we do have a variety of scholarship opportunities available for our graduate business students. Those scholarships typically range from 20 to 50% of tuition. This process and scholarship review happens as part of your application process. So when you are going through the steps to apply, you'll not only be considered for program admission, but also scholarship considerations. We do have some incentives specifically for RIT students, and you can see those outlined here. The master plans for RIT undergraduates who stay for a graduate degree, honor students get a little extra scholarship, and then Master Up is available for any student from really domestic student from the US. So your minimum scholarship starts at 30%. And then if it warrants it, we would raise that level. Typically, we go up by 10% increments, so 40, 50%. But those are all merit-based. And obviously, the higher you go, the more competitive it is in terms of the amounts there. The other piece too that isn't listed here, but for the PhD program that is fully funded, there are stipends available as well. So that's a totally different model. Obviously, generally speaking, with the PhD, we're also admitting around 5 students per year to that program. But yeah, so that gives some detail about the scholarships. And at any point, if anyone does have questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. I'm certainly happy to address those, and then we'll have time at the end as well. But for the MBA, so that is, again, it is STEM designated. There are 11 total core classes, including the capstone. So 10 core business courses plus the capstone makes 11. Those courses, again, are spanning marketing, finance, accounting. We have a data analytics oriented course. There's a course in innovation, ethics as well. So you'll do those, and then you have the 5 electives. These electives can be kind of up to you on how you want to package those together. So some students will, hone in on specific areas. Others will tap into courses within the business school or outside of the business school. We do allow students to take courses in other colleges. So, as long as you're meeting the prereqs for those, we will work with that department to, push you into those classes and enroll in those courses as well. But yeah, 16 total courses. And then again, if you do have coursework that can help accelerate the program, that is an option as well. But yeah, Palak, is there anything else that you want to add from a coursework perspective, or any highlighted classes that you would mention?
Yeah, so in terms of just like coursework, the way, at least for me, that has been helpful is like being mindful of the courses you're taking. Like instead of taking all hard classes at the same time, maybe divide it up between semesters so you have certain classes that are not that as hard, and it's easier instead of just taking all of the hard classes together. One of the courses I would do highlight for graduate electives is we do have study abroad opportunities at grad level as well. This summer I took a graduate elective in healthcare, and we went to Sweden for a week. So there's also those kind of opportunities where you can work with your advisor and also potentially do a study abroad.
Perfect. Thank you, Palak. Appreciate that. I would say to Block's point, you know, you obviously know yourself in terms of what disciplines may be easier than others. And there are certainly certain disciplines within business that um, may challenge you in certain ways that you haven't been challenged before. So um, just kind of being mindful of that as you know, plan out your schedules. And also the amount of classes you're taking can certainly have an impact as well. Typically for full-time students, it's 4 per semester, 4 classes per term. Sometimes we will have some students that do 5, but that is a big undertaking. So you want to be very mindful of that as well. Technically speaking, full-time enrollment at the graduate level is actually 3 classes from at least a federal like loan perspective and things like that. Again, we're comfortable with students doing 4, and that's typically how we build full-time schedules. But anything above that, you really want to be mindful of what the course load is like. And that goes for any program. But yeah, thank you, Palak, for those insights. All right, so, and then we'll talk briefly about our MS programs as well, just hit on some highlights of each of those. The Global Supply Chain Management program is 30 credits, again, 12 months, and the 12-month programs, we intentionally say 12 months because it includes a summer term. So most of these are fall, spring, summer sequences. So typically you're looking at like a 4-course sequence in fall and spring, and then finishing up 2 classes in the summer. We'll talk about the co-op stuff a little bit later, but that is an option to weave into programs. Generally speaking, when students do a co-op, they're extending the program by a semester, and that allows you to focus solely on that co-op experience. You don't pay tuition when you're doing that co-op experience. You're getting paid. You're still considered an RIT student, so there's no issues, you know, for international students or anything like that from that perspective. But the Global Supply Chain program, it's one of our smaller programs, but on the flip side of that, we've really been able to build strong career connections for students who have interest in this space. So the outcomes rate with this program is, I believe, still at 100%. You know, you can see here, Amazon's definitely one that have hired our students. We have some good connections locally as well. But this is a great opportunity to develop analytical skills that you can apply in a supply chain setting that is also very global in focus. So you can see there supply chain analysis, also global business analytics. So, and then export global sourcing is another big one. That course, obviously very, very applicable in the space right now, just given all that's happening within the US from an export, you know, global sourcing perspective. So this is a great fit for students that have that interest in growing into a career in supply chain. And then MS in Finance, this is a really customizable program. It is the extra 1 credit, 31 credits. There is an exam component with this program that there's a 1 credit kind of prep for that that students will complete. But it is designed, at least by nature, to prepare students for managerial careers in finance, corporate investment, or portfolio management. So those are some of the traditional career pathways within finance. There are only 4 required classes in the program. The rest are electives. So you have a lot of ability to customize the program for yourself. And as a result of that, we also have some students that will build out a kind of computational style finance program given the STEM designation. So if you have interest in potentially building, you know, algorithms or various financial models and applying, you know, programming skills like R and Python, math skills as well. So within the program, there are opportunities to take electives in financial mathematics and things like that. So we do have that ability. A lot of students that have interest in that computational kind of finance path have that math aptitude and have interest in like financial engineering type of careers. But if you want something a little more traditional, you can certainly build that out as well. With various investment classes, we have a stock market algorithmic trading course. So again, this course and path can be very customizable, and students can also be prepared by doing the program to sit for and pursue the CFA exam, so the Chartered Financial Analyst exam, which is a big credential that is recognized internationally within the finance space. And then our MS Accounting and Analytics, 12-month, 30 credits. We've focused quite a bit in this program on combining the accounting and technical side of our programs and weaving that into a specific degree program, as we've heard many times from employers that is something they very much value from our accounting students. So really looking at big data, AI, ERP systems, and accounting and auditing, and how that applies in that space. Obviously it's much more today, just from a data perspective and all the data that is in the accounting space. You can see some of the highlighted coursework there as well. And again, this is a STEM designated program, and it does prepare students for the CPA exam as well. So for those that are looking to potentially become a certified public accountant, again, a very, very valuable credential to have. There is a CPA shortage in the US, so something that is, again, desirable for employers to have folks that have that credential. So you can be prepared to pursue that as well within the MS in Accounting and Analytics program. And then our MS Business Analytics and AI program. This currently is Accounting Analytics and the Business Analytics and AI are two of the largest MS programs that we have in the business school. So again, this one I really focused on leading data strategy, formulation, collection to enhance decision making, using again tools like R and Python. And then you will also get coursework that spans various analytical areas within the business space. So marketing analytics and financial analytics, there's an accounting and analytics course. So you get understandings of how analytics is utilized in those different spaces, how those organizations or disciplines will use that data to enhance marketing, enhance financial decision making, enhance accounting and that decision making. And that's really the focus of this program. Is it's not quite as technical as you might see a program within like our College of Computing, but you are still diving, especially in certain classes, into using tools like R and Python. In our advanced business analytics course, it's used in the financial analytics course as well. So that is something we will look for students in those programs, and also in the accounting and analytics program to an extent, even finance a little bit as well, depending on what path you want to go. But we do look for that background. And if you don't have it, there are pathways that we can work with you to take some online classes that'll help prepare and get you along that path. And then our hospitality business management program, that actually is no longer has a fully online option. It's on campus only at this point. It is actually one of only 2 STEM designated hospitality programs in the US. The other one's at Boston University. So we're very proud of that. And it's a nice blend of some foundational hospitality courses that will prepare you for that career and that career growth, and then also potentially infusing a secondary focus in other areas like finance, digital marketing, data analytics. Accounting is one. We've definitely had some hospitality students go into accounting in the past, specifically in the hospitality industry. Marketing, obviously a big one here as well. So some nice ways that you can infuse a variety and a blend of content here to drive strong careers in the hospitality space. And then our last program, this one again may be changing at some point here in the next year or so. But right now, this is a fully online part-time program where students are able to develop those leadership and innovation skills, really focused on change management in a lot of ways. So organizations are ever changing. So that, the HR roles, change management specialists, things like that. I anticipate, again, when we develop that new program within the management space, that a lot of the coursework that is currently in the organizational leadership and innovation program will still be applicable in the new MS management program. And then, you know, the ability to have that kind of focus and leadership and innovation will still be available. But yeah, and this program right now is exclusively online. Any of our fully online programs, which we really don't have many of, at least within business, but specifically for this program, there is a reduced tuition rate because of the online component. No scholarships are available for the fully online programs, but the tuition's heavily reduced as a result of the online delivery format. Okay, and then the co-op component, our outcomes rate is right around 95%. That holds true across the university, and it can be a little different from program to program, but that generally is what holds true for us. You can see here some of the numbers from a co-op perspective. You know, lots of students being placed annually. As I mentioned earlier, a co-op is not required at the graduate level, or co-op internship, kind of use that interchangeably. However, it is an option. So if you have interest in pursuing that, so a co-op, typically it's a full-time experience, 12 to 15 weeks across typically a full semester, and you are getting paid for those experiences, and you're also not paying tuition when you do a co-op, because in most cases you're not taking classes. So the general path for students when they are pursuing a co-op experience is a fall spring term of courses, co-op in the summer typically, and then finishing the program the following fall. If you were to start in a spring term, it can get a little trickier, just given, especially for international students, if you're trying to pursue a co-op, you have to have a fall spring sequence done before you pursue the co-op experience. A summer term is considered an off term for international students. So that doesn't count towards the CPT that you would need to be eligible for the co-op. So you'd be looking at more like a spring, fall, and then potentially a co-op in the following spring term. So it could potentially extend it a little further, but you know, depending on your interest, the co-op is so valuable in having and gaining that experience that, and because you're not paying tuition, it can be a very valuable thing to pursue. We do have very large career fairs each fall and spring. We also have industry days that we offer in the business school. So we had one 2 weeks ago, I believe, for hospitality and the service industry. I believe we have one, it might even be this week, for finance, specifically in the finance industry. We have a specific career for accounting and even MIS students as well. And all of those are open to our graduate students. So lots of options and opportunities to connect with employers. These are some of the employers that we've partnered with. You know, you see some big companies here and then some more regional ones as well, but certainly not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a sense of what our students have been doing in the past and kind of some of their various career paths. And I think one thing that is important is RIT is very interdisciplinary. So, you know, companies have needs in all of their different arms of their business, right? So GE, which is, you know, right here, they are typically hiring our engineering students, but we also have many of our business students go there. You know, and the big four accounting firms like PwC, they're hiring our accounting students, but oftentimes they're also hiring our computing students, just given the needs from an analytics perspective and things like that. So there's a lot of interdisciplinary focus in what we do, and that adds a lot of value to the career marketplace that we have at RIT. And then we do have quite a bit from an entrepreneurship perspective. You can see that photo there is of our Simone Center. We actually recently kind of redeveloped the Simone Center a bit. So one of the cool initiatives we have is the Bernard Kozel Startup Program at the Saunders College of Business. This is opportunities for students really outside the classroom if they have a business you know, interest and they want to carry out developing a business idea, where they can pursue that within that startup program and get potentially co-op credit for it. You get some coaching. There's stipends associated with it as well. but you get an opportunity to basically take a summer, typically, and work on that business idea, work with your team in developing that idea, and then carry it forward, potentially as well. So yeah, lots of opportunities there, and then others as well. So we've had some similar to Shark Tank, Tiger Tank competitions, business plan competitions. There's a venture creations incubator that actually supports like external business ideas that are pretty high level, and that's actually the Simone Center is kind of shifting towards some of that external focus, and then the startup program and that entrepreneurial education is coming more into the College of Business specifically, but similar opportunities that we've always had, just a little bit of a reorganization of what that looks like. And then again, I mentioned this a little bit with regard to the curriculum, but we do have some consulting that happens with companies, and organizations that are looking for support. I know some of our marketing classes have helped with marketing plans in the class, data analytics, coursework, assisting companies in analyzing big data. And then we do have the construct. We actually have a really cool maker space that now we call it the Shed, the Student Hall for Exploration and Development. That's a massive space right in the center of campus where students can really take ideas that they have and really bear them out within that space. And then the business school underwent an expansion 2 years ago, which opened almost 2 years ago, January of 2024. You can see here some of the new space, the new buildings up here in the right-hand corner, basically doubled the size of our original building, connected and expanded that space, and it's been a huge addition for us. A lot of team rooms, study spaces available for students, but it's been a really big addition, and these are some of the other photos as well that you can see here. And then the last thing we'll close with, and then we can, open for Q&A, things like that, are the application requirements. So you will complete an online application. You do need to hold a baccalaureate degree from an accredited university. If you're still in progress with your bachelor's, that's fine. You can still apply. It's just conditional on completing that degree. Within our business programs, we generally do want to see students have a background and knowledge in algebra and statistics. So it's okay if you don't have that. We can work with you to get that, but generally speaking, at least, a course or two in algebra, stats. The data analytics course in particular relies a little bit on stats, like regression analysis and stuff like that. So at least a course or two in stats as well. You'll submit all your official transcripts. If you have, from undergrad, but as well, if you have any graduate coursework, you'll submit that as well. Any coursework from other universities that wasn't like your primary, graduate or undergraduate program, you'll submit all of those as well. So, so we have the fullest picture. So at face value, we do require the GMAT or GRE. However, there's a lot of kind of exceptions to that. The GMAT is waived for any students who have earned an undergrad degree or above in the US. So if you've earned that degree domestically in the US, the exam, the GMAT or GRE is waived. And then for international students who have done the same, so if you have an undergrad degree in the US or even a graduate degree, that is fine. And then in addition to that, the following programs are now GMAT or GRE optional, and this applies for US or international students. And so accounting and analytics, finance, global supply chain, and hospitality business management. So you have the option to submit the GMAT or GRE. I mean, I would say it still is preferred if you do it, but if not, just understand that, your academic background is going to be rigorously reviewed. So like for finance, for example, we're going to look closely at some of your quantitative aptitudes from a coursework perspective, see kind of how that transitions, and accounting, obviously with the MS in accounting, generally most students have at least, a minor equivalent to a minor, like 15 credits or in accounting, but the vast majority of students have an undergrad degree in accounting, so that's going to be scrutinized more. So just be mindful of that it is optional, and we will certainly review your candidacy in that way, but things will be, because we'll have less to from a benchmark standpoint to go off of, as is the same for domestic students. You're going to be reviewed closely from an academic perspective. The other two big things that you'll submit are a personal statement and a resume. With the personal statement, this is your chance to market yourself. So, we don't want to be seeing things, generated from Chat GPT or AI or anything like that. This is your chance to really market yourself. Current resume. And then for international students, we do require the IELTS or TOEFL. We also now give and provide students the opportunity to submit Duolingo as well. So we do accept that now as well. You can see here the minimum scores that we're looking for. TOEFL's no lower than an 88. IELTS is no lower than a 6.5. We do look at sub scores as well, so it's not just a hard and fast requirement. We're reviewing things holistically. And then same for Duolingo, the minimum score is 130, and we'll look at those sub scores as well for those. And then again, I think next logical steps are, obviously you can certainly start your application. Also feel free to meet with us one-on-one. Obviously this content is high level, but we're happy to discuss with you in more detail based on your background and what your individual needs are, what outcomes you're looking for, what might be the best fit, and things like that. So yeah. So at this point, we can certainly jump into any questions that folks have. I did see one. No, the GMAT GRE waiver is not applicable for the PhD. That's a hard requirement. I think just about every PhD program requires that. So yeah, so that is required for the PhD. And that application process for the PhD is pretty rigorous. I think it's important to understand also just the competitive nature of a lot of PhD programs, but we get 100 to 150 applications a year for the PhD. And again, we're admitting like 5 students. So it is competitive. So, you're going to want to perform well on that exam. But yeah, other questions that folks have regarding the application processes, programs, and any questions for Palak just based on her experiences. I mean, she's been here, it's been what, 5 years, right? Yeah. So yeah. So any questions? Palak, the one thing I would ask is what, and I know obviously you came here as an undergraduate student, but what kind of led you to RIT? Like what specifically was enticing about, coming to RIT specifically? As I know, obviously you're from India, so obviously that, understanding kind of RIT and the whole, but curious what kind of led you here.
Yeah, so one of the biggest thing for me was the community at RIT. So when I was doing my university search, it was during COVID, so everything was on Zoom. And when I met the students at RIT and just like the folks from admissions, it felt like it felt like a community. It felt like I had a place to be at RIT. And if they can if I can feel like that on Zoom, I can only imagine how it is in person. So that was one of the reasons. And like being here, I feel like I made the right choice because professors, staff, just everyone here is here to support you with anything you need. And it's truly like a community. Like you would find your niche, you would find someone like either through classes or through clubs, or there's a place for you at RIT in some way or form. The second reason was their co-op program. Being an international student, having like after graduation, needing a job to stay in the US. So through the co-op program, a lot of this was not specifically my experience, but my friends who have had a co-op, they have essentially went back to the company and now working for the company. and that has been helpful for them because they don't have to then like find a job or be like stressed about that. So it's usually nice to have a co-op, and then usually they will offer you a full time after graduation.
Thank you, Plak. Appreciate that. And appreciate all those insights. Yeah, I think the co-op's obviously a huge differentiator. Obviously, though, the reality is that within the U.S., especially for international students right now, it's been tough, right? So we don't want to sugarcoat that, but I do think because we do have those strengths, we definitely have employers that are very willing to do what they can to hire international students. But it's not perfect, and we're not here to sugarcoat that at all. But I do think we have still some quality outcomes occurring. Still have a good segment of international students wanting to come to RIT as well. So, we'll see kind of where things go over the next year or so. And with various things, up in the air, I think, yeah, we'll continue to progress forward and do the best we can for all our students. I did put the link to the open house that we had last month for the PhD. So feel free to check that out as well. That was a hybrid session, so we had some students in person and some online. But yeah, feel free to check that information out. And then, Plak, the last thing I would ask, any advice that you have for folks as they are kind of going through that search for grad school, and just, various,
Mm.
options that they may be considering?
Yeah, I know for me the way I chose RIT and like wherever I wanted to go is like have a set of things you want to see a university have, like any like top 3 or 5 non-negotiables you have. And if a university provides that, go for it. I think that was the most helpful I did because I literally had a list and I just like yes, no, and which university kind of fit what I wanted.
Awesome. No, that's great advice. Great. So if we have no other questions, we'll kind of wrap here. Again, as we talked about earlier, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Again, want to meet to discuss things further. If you want to visit campus, if you have those opportunities, we're always here as well. Um, I did put my email specifically in the chat. So if you do have questions, feel free to reach out directly there. Um, and then we have a variety of sessions as well coming up that are specific to our various programs. So we have, let me just pull this up because we have a couple coming up. Next week we'll have a session, actually basically a week from exactly today, November 12th. We'll have a session on our hospitality business management program. And then the following week, November 19th, we'll have a session on our MBA program. That session is actually in the evenings, Eastern Standard Time. I know that's not always ideal for international students, but we typically have a decent amount of domestic students as well that attend that. So the evening window works best for that, as well. And then in the spring, we'll have various sessions, and those will also include things like alumni panels, a current student panel, stuff like that. And then we do have a repository of recordings of some of the previous sessions we've done. We had one regarding our accounting programs and the finance program, one on supply chain as well, and then one again specifically for the PhD. So I'll include that link in the chat too of various upcoming webinars that we have. But yeah, we appreciate everyone jumping on. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But otherwise, we'll be in touch going forward. Hope to hear from you all soon and review an application. And thanks again and have a good day.